Out here in India, classic themed modern motorcycles have been all the rage for quite a while. But what if you wanted a motorcycle that offered you something unique and it really stood out on the road? Well, that's where factory custom motorcycles come into play. And Jawa ESD, under the Classic Legends umbrella, well, they have a couple of options of this particular segment of motorcycle for you. But hold on, Jawa already has the Perak out there. So what is this, the 42 Bobber, doing out here? Now, although this bike is heavily based on the Perak, well, I'm wondering what's so unique about it. Well, we're here to find out. So let's get right to it.
The Bobber 42 still looks very much like the Jawa Perak. In fact, it's heavily based on the older bike. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because it still looks outstanding and very eye-catching in my opinion. It's still got that awesome stretched out laid back vibe to it with that big 19-inch wheel up front, the bars that are bent backwards, the bar end mirrors, floating single seat, and that slick swing arm and curvy tail end. It's quite the same as the Perak, just with hints of modernity to it. The Bobber gets livelier paint schemes, LED lighting all around, and there's no analog speedo and fuel gauge. Instead, the Bobber 42 gets an all-digital single-pod cluster that's borrowed from the Jawa Roadster model. And there's other bits thrown in on there as well, which alter the bike's ergonomics.
Alright, so in terms of the ride position and ergonomics, well, the 42 Bobber is slightly different as compared to the Jawa Perak. Why? Because, well, first of all, you have a different shaped tank. The Perak has a teardrop shaped tank, and over here with the 42, the Bobber, you have nice recesses and even some tank grips for your knees. Then you have the slightly forward set foot pegs which alter your rider triangle when you get to the bars. The seat as well has been changed, and the suspension unit, the monoshock at the rear, has been softened a bit to take on bumps a little better. But how does this all translate out on the road? Let's find out.
Now the riding position on this bike will have your arms and legs stretched out forward, which may look super cool to onlookers, but really it isn't the best over long stints in the saddle. This coupled with the 1458mm wheelbase means that this bike isn't a very agile handler. In true Bobber fashion, the ride quality is stiff, which means that this bike can get quite choppy over terrain that isn't ultra smooth. Even small bumps send shocks through the seat, which many Indians won't really appreciate given our poor road conditions. Also, ground clearance is low and you'll be scraping the feelers the moment you take on a corner with even a bit of gusto, which brings me to the engine. The engine is the same 334cc liquid-cooled single-cylinder unit as the one on the Perak, and it comes in the same state of tune as well, producing 30 PS of power, 32 Nm of torque, and it comes mated to the same 6-speed gearbox. The engine still feels and sounds rough around the edges. It feels strained even around 4000 RPM, and that's when the fun really starts with this bike. Vibrations kick in as low as 4200 RPM in 6th when you're doing about 80 kmph, which in all honesty wouldn't be very nice over long distance rides. Low down the power band, torque is just borderline adequate, and you might be prone to stalling this bike if you're not in the right gear when you slow down or try to pull away too quickly. Mid-range is nice and strong here, but the party ends at 8000 RPM, which is 1000 RPM below the deadline. Also, something that I found a bit odd was the fact that with the main stand down, you can't start the Bobber 42 in idle. It'll only start with the side stand up. Now, I like the fact that Jawa has been paying attention to its customers, and there is evidence of that on this bike as well. You see, with the Perak, they were told that the seat of that bike was rather uncomfortable, so Jawa opted for a different textured fabric and they tweaked the design of the seat around as well. They were also told that the Perak's tail lamp, which was positioned under that seat, well, the light couldn't be seen by road users once the luggage rack accessory was mounted on the rear fender. So they shifted the lights to the rear fender as well. The ABS and the rear suspension were altered to improve the ride quality of the bike as well. But has all this made the Bobber 42 altogether better than the Perak? Well, unfortunately, no, it hasn't. You see, the level of fit and finish still leaves a bit to be desired. And although paint quality is good, we've previously seen rivets and bolts fly off the Jawa before, and there's even evidence of that occurring again with this bike, which isn't very reassuring.
Alright, so what is the 42 Bobber doing out here in India, especially when Jawa already has the Perak available in the country? Well, to put things simply, this is a slightly more bettered machine than the Perak. Now, the 42 Bobber does offer a little more in terms of features by means of its all-digital display, the charging ports, the new button, switchgear, LED lighting at both ends, and there are some functional aspects to it as well, like the slightly contoured tank and the slightly altered suspension setup and the ABS unit as well. But overall, what does this bike bring to the table? Yes, it is a slightly improved Jawa Perak, but at the end of the day, has it ironed out all its issues? I'm sorry to say, but no, it hasn't. There are still some build quality issues. The bolts keep rattling off the bike. Well, it's not something that you would really expect from a motorcycle that you pay in excess of 2 lakh for. Now, there are definitely a lot of aspects that Jawa still has to iron out when it comes to this motorcycle, but in terms of what it brings to the table, yes, well, if you are one of those takers that is really taken away with the whole factory custom element of it all, the design aspect, well, yes, this bike still looks crazy. It looks really nice, attractive, and this model in particular, with this paint scheme, this will set you back by 2,10,000 rupees, which is on par with the Perak as it stands currently. If you like the whole Perak aspect of the factory custom bobber, but wanted a slightly more modern take to the retro modern theme of it all, well, this one is the bike that you should be looking at.